Vinaka na recebo mai. Bula everybody. Vinaka na recebo mai. Sa vinaka vale besara nimbula vinaka na vewakani ni siama tiku manaka vinaka ni kua vinaka wakale besara na siama tiku mai vikim ni keda na siama tiku mai viti vambulu sarchukani vikim ni todoko ni taki ni bulu vinaka tiko dinangani da stava tiko nandrendre ni tobi mate da stava tiko nangone ni kua ni taka ni na ngono totolo tondongo sana otiani na mate tobi keda tiko na ngonongo na bese vura ni taka ni na oti mai na mate ongo merau ni da sota tale wakaviwakani wambul sarchukani ngoi Hawaii singa vuke lulu tiko ngo ikevi ke mami singa lutu lebu tiko mibiti da mara tiko ni vida na singa ngo enda vital no takatikina na yan totoko ngo rotuma o klani bunga weekend enda tarongo tiko mbeka isa mada sawot na ngade rotuma mada ngo to simbali ngade rotuma iyo ngona to suchuk ngana vito kuni ngo na rotuma language week ena ada tiko na mada katumai ka dola tiko na mada ni buli bosa na bosa bakrotuma ni bosa tiao ena singa tambu na ikadiwa ni me adawaya ni na ika tinika lima ni singa na ndoto doko na mada iya vinaka wakale besara ni Bula no ai mauri vinaka wakale besara na vito politiko mai ena buku ni kena maro teko na bosa bakrotuma kena beka membaliti rotona beka na tome rotuma thank you so much everyone. I know everyone is looking forward to this Talanoa tonight. We've been so blessed with amazing speakers from Rotuma coming over to be part of my program. This week, we started off with Professor Wilson Herniko from the University of Hawaii, Manoa, here in Honolulu, in Hawaii. So we've been so blessed that he could accept my humble request to come over and be part of this program. And then we had Letila Mitchell, who came in yesterday. And today, we have another guest logging in from the beautiful town of Lami. So I'm sure there's some of you who have connections to Lami and some of you who are even logging in from Lami. So we have one of our guests, special guest, and his name is, I'm sure is familiar to many of us. Many of us have seen his pictures on newspapers. He's been on television. He's represented Fiji and Rotuma all over the world. And so we are so blessed that he also accepted my humble request to be here with us to tell his story on his journey into the field of fashion and design. So I think at this point, we would like to say our wonderful Bula vinaka and Noaie Maori Hupfeld Hoerder. Bula vinaka happy.
I think I'm going to be a bit biased here. I'm going to say Noia and Koyaksha to everybody around the world, and Bulavinaka Tarisi, all the listeners. Thank you for your invitation. It's a great honor to be here to share my experience, and also to wish every Rutuman around the world happy Rutuma Day. Unfortunately, in Fiji, we won't be able to, and in many places, we won't be able to celebrate it physically, but maybe virtually we can celebrate it like what we're doing now, just sharing the beautiful island and our people, because we're a very minority ethnic group, and we're very proud people, and because we're from a very small isolated island, which is quite a challenge. um, Thank you for allowing me to be on the show to share that with you. Thank you.
Sa vinaka, Sara happy. And I think I was saying to a few of my friends who were contacting me because this last month was Neta Siri, and then this month is Teilevu, and in between comes in Rotuma. And so we mentioned to them, look, Rotuma is a very special place for us in Fiji. As I was saying to our other speakers, even last week with Mrs. Marietta Ringamoto, and for the other speakers too, I mentioned, when I was growing up, the only thing I remember, even on the news, on the radio, is Vitike Rotuma. That Rotuma is always attached to Fiji on so many things. But then my experience when I was in New Zealand was that, Rotuma was hardly mentioned, even within the circles of Fiji. And then I noticed that Rotuma was always in the shadows of Fiji. And through my experience of working in the Auckland Museum, where we were able to separate the Rotuma artifacts. They were beautiful ape and the baskets and the fans from Rotuma. And the staff at the Auckland Museum thought that they were all from Fiji. But when I saw it, I knew they were from Rotuma. So that's how kind of, everything started. And in my mind, I was thinking, no, Rotuma deserves to have their own spotlight moments. So it's this kind of little things that I try to do through this online platform to have not one, but now 2 weeks of Rotuma leading up to the Rotuma week next week. Okay? So we're happy for, coming and joining us on the program.
Thank you. Ironically speaking, with your experience in Auckland, so I had a very similar experience when we went to showcase in London in 2012. We went to Cambridge University, and I think last year, 2 years ago, I think not the Prime Minister, the President, Chochi Kondote went up. So the museum has a Fiji collection, and very similar to what you did, I did, because we were going through Sir Arthur Gordon. He had heaps. I mean, if you go to that museum in London, one thing that struck me was I was, not ashamed. I wouldn't use that word, but our museum in Fiji, and I know there's a group that's trying to raise funds because it was going to shut down here. But that museum had collections which outshone what we had in Fiji. So Arthur Gordon had gifts from every part of Fiji, masses dating back to the early 1800s, and gifts. And so he had a mat, which was, I think, labeled wrongly. And then I looked at it and I said, this is not Fijian, nor is it Tongan, because they had labeled it as from one part of Fiji, like Nandonga or something. And I said, I can swear to you, this is Rutuman. And I called the curator and I said, I think you need to correct this. This is not Samoan, no Tongan, no Fijian. I could tell the way the weaving was done, the deco. It was so intricate. And I said, this is Rotuman. I can guarantee you, I can bet my life on it. And so they actually documented that and made that change, because it was the only only evidence of Rutuman, artifact that he was given a gift, and unfortunately they didn't document it and record it, properly. So I was very, very proud to actually recognize that. Yeah. So can you imagine that particular item was older than me and probably my parents? Yeah. So very similar to what you did. Yeah. So it was
Yes,
amazing.
absolutely. Because I still remember that day so vividly. When I walked in
Mm.
and there was this whole table full of beautiful, even some of the fans. First time
Yeah.
for me to see those kind of designs.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
my usual Fijian fan, the
Yes.
iri. And I looked at it and I smiled and I was so happy that
Mm.
they kind of like as if they knew that they were different, but they were all on one table. And then
Yeah.
I just told them. And then the interesting thing, they wanted to know more about Rotuma at that very moment. And they did know that there were Rotumans in Auckland. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why in that year of 2017, I think, we had Rotuma, was it? Yeah, I think we started just one day just to invite all the Rotumans to come in. So that was, I think, a huge shift, particularly for Auckland Museum to recognize
Yes.
I don't like the word minority group sometimes,
Yes.
but I think at some point it can be used,
Yeah.
because it often referred to smaller
Yes.
islands, like
Yes.
Rotuma. But now it
Yes.
seems like, no, you need your own platform. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
we're
very
not
true. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, um, so yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. I think in the future, I think with government like the Fiji Museum can work with the Rutuman Association in Suva to at least when they have Rutuma dates, it's normally the traditional dances and the food. But
Yes.
it would be nice. I mean, when everything normalizes, like if we could also have a Rotuma week that coincides with Rotuma Day, like what you're doing, and have we have a lot of Rotumans who are artists in different areas specialization, and
Yes.
could have like an exhibition at the museum
Mm,
where children with Rutuman descent
mm,
in Fiji. There's a lot of Rutumans who've intermarried and had children,
yeah.
and for many of them that still live in Fiji, have not been to Rutuma,
Yeah.
do not know. It's very sad because I teach at university, and some are part Indian, part Fijian, and
Mm,
they don't know who or where they're from, or what a particular ceremony is, and and having that exhibition will educate
yeah.
our young generation here, because I
Mm,
think it's very important. I think it's
yeah.
very important. I mean, Fijians have realized that because modern we're going into modern times with social media, but if we do that, then that's one way of preserving and the conservation of our language, culture,
Mm,
tradition, etc. It's very,
mm.
very interesting. Yeah.
Dina Saranga. I will definitely, I'm taking notes and I will have a little talano with the director of Fiji Museum, Cipriano Nemani, to see if they can do something similar, and have a feature of Rotuma at the Fiji Museum, and maybe bring out some of the artifacts that are in the storeroom,
Yeah.
to highlight it for the children to come in and have a fun day at the
Yeah.
museum. Mm.
Exactly.
Naka. Yes, nakabaliw sa happy. So to kickstart our Talanoa, I would love to connect you back to Rotuma, and also to your family home in Lami, and just to go down memory lane, just to tell us a little bit about your family and for your upbringing and where you were raised, and maybe leading up to this very moment through the creative work and the education that you have acquired over the years. Vinaka happy.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Hupfeld Herder. Um, Everybody calls me Happy. It's just simple and it's easier. And I usually explain the reason behind my name because it's very peculiar, because it's not Rutuman, it's German. Like I said, a lot of people are mixed blood. Um, we have German heritage, but I'm a very proud Rutuman. My mother is from Elsea Malhaha, and my father has links to Oinafa, which I'm proud of where I come from. I think you hear this a lot with Rutumans because it's such a small island, and I think everybody's related somehow. Um, Uh, so I was born and raised in Fiji. I've been to Rotuma a couple of times, and I think I need to go back to.
Mm.
I always feel there's like a sense of belonging for most of us Rotumans. It's really good to feel connected and to go back and to to appreciate your tradition, your culture, your roots, and also to be inspired by the people who are very hardworking. I'm not saying that because I'm a Rutuman, but generally are very hardworking ethnic group. Uh, you know, um, so I grew up in Suva. I went to school here, my primary and secondary school. I went to Vito Primary School. In the Suva Grammar, I went to I finished from sixth to Suva Grammar. And then I went into hospitality and tourism. So I joined the catering school where I was always I noticed that when I was young at school, I wasn't, let me see, I was a late bloomer. So, not really into academia at that point in time. So I love to work with my hands and being creative. So I think hospitality was the area I really looked at, because I love meeting people and then doing things with my hands and learning different things because in hospitality there are different departments. And so I worked in the hotels for about 15 to 16, 17 years depending on where I started. A number of hotels from the Muscat Cove Resort to the Hyatt Regency before it changed to the Warwick Fiji, the Sheraton Fiji when it first opened. Um, Came down to Holiday Inn, the Grand Pacific Hotel before it closed and opened. So quite a few years of background in hospitality. And why I'm talking about hospitality because I'll show you the link from my creative side how it linked from hospitality gradually into art. But I've always had that artistic flair in school. I was very arty and I wanted to become an architect. Um, and I wasn't ready for university because I think I wasn't matured enough. And I always say that to my students. University is not about it. Nobody cares whether you were the ducks in your school because
Mm.
at university it's a totally different level. It's all about discipline and maturity. And
Yeah.
I would say maturity because I was a matured student then when I came back to USP and I did my economics degree. You will see that when I talk about like how you said introduction, I've had a very diverse it's very diverse but also very complementary to each other.
Mm.
So my undergraduate was in economics, and then I graduated. I never even dreamt to become a teacher. I found a teaching job at the then FIT at the catering school where I studied, and I taught for about 9 years. Um, After that, I very fortunately and God bless, I won a scholarship, one of the last recipients for FAB, Fijian Affairs Board, to do my master's in Brisbane, in Gold Coast, in Australia. So I did my master's in international tourism and hospitality management. So my undergraduate graduate is economics. My master's was in international tourism, and as you know, that my PhD that I'm going to pursue soon is in
Yes.
fashion and design. You see, very diverse, but very complementary and related because the artistic flair went through all those three areas. And I
Yes.
chose that because I wanted setting up my business benefited me because I had the economic side and the business side of things. At university, I teach hospitality management at the 100 and 200 level. And part of it is event management. And event management is all about creativity, theming, dining, creating menus. All that has to do with creativity. So when I was in primary school, most of my primary school teachers remember me as Happy who'd love to draw on his books and draw on everything that I come on. And I'll tell you a very funny story. One of my favorite teachers, they say you remember the teachers who were nasty to you, and you remember the teachers that were nice to you. So I haven't seen this one. Her name was Mrs. Mali Mali. She's still alive. I met her last year. We hadn't seen each other for 30, 40 odd years. And I was in MHCC and she heard my voice. She didn't know where I was. And she said, Hupfeld Herder. And then I turned and I looked and I said, Mrs. Mali Mali, you look exactly the same. She was my class 5 teacher. So she was one of those teachers that inspired me because she would get me to draw murals on big sheets of butcher's paper. and the kids would paint after I draw turtles and things, and theming of what year it was. And so she was one of those people. I mean, a lot of teachers inspired me, and I'm just so happy that all through God was with me, and my family is. I have come from a very strong, close knit family.
Mm.
Unfortunately, my father died a few years ago. I have a brother and two sisters, and I lost my brother too, which was very
Mm.
was it took like it was like our family, like we lost a limb. And I think many people can
Mm.
identify to that, because I'm sure everybody has lost a loved one in their family. But
Yeah.
it teaches you to be stronger. It definitely did teach me to be stronger and to be grateful, and to be know that life is short,
Mm.
and to just be grateful, in especially at this time, like with what you have, and know that don't complain and whinge, because people out there are worse off than your situation. So it taught me that, and so many things more, and I'm still learning. I always like to say I'm still learning, because even though I'm an established, people categorize me as an established designer.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. You're never short of learning something new every day, because
So,
you better yourself in terms of a designer, because it just makes you humbler, and you have more humility, and appreciate life more better. And yeah, and so I've just thought about 12 years that where I am now
yeah.
is I'm at University of South Pacific. I've been very fortunate. So I'm on a sessional contract. I love it, because I teach at USP for 3 days in a week, and then I'm with the business on other days. Uh, and I enjoy it, because you are able to balance both, and appreciate both. Because I love my teaching, I love the students, and unfortunately, USP has gotten not so very good, the politics, but I don't get involved with that. I
No.
think if you love your job and you appreciate what you do, that you do your best, and you learn from it. And I'm still learning, like I said. So yes, I think my the press release that Alan did, which I wanted to keep it private, but I mean, I'm grateful for Alan for being one of my referees. I won a scholarship to University of New South Wales, and it's the first for Fijian, because my boss wanted me to do my PhD in hospitality and tourism, because my background is there, and because I teach tourism. And a lot of people think, "Oh, do you teach fashion at USP?" I said, "No, unfortunately, I don't." Um, my heart was in with hospitality and tourism, although I love it very much. And
Yeah.
I, with my PhD, and you would know that, Dr. T, is
Yeah.
that you got to do something that you're very passionate about, and I found something that I was passionate about.
So,
Um, so the
yeah.
scholarship was, and I acknowledge Ron Vave. I think he's in Hawaii too.
Yeah, he's here in Honolulu. Yeah.
It was, yeah. I stumbled across his Facebook page, which had that advertisement, which is the research scholarship. It's a research project, and it is fully funded by the Australian government. So one of the criteria requirements is that you got to write a letter to introduce yourself to the
Mm.
principal supervisor, the primary supervisor,
Mm.
who was very nice, and she knew who I was. When I opened the link to the research scholarship, it's very, very funny, because the photo they had on the research scholarship was my clothes. She had come down to Fiji and took a photo. So I was like, I said to myself, I woke my mom and I said, "Mom, I'm going to apply for this scholarship. I can feel it already that this is my scholarship. I know so I prayed, and, of course I applied and put everything through. Dr. Don Gibson and Dr. Steve Pratt, Professor Steve Pratt were my referees, academic referees at USP.
Mm.
At that time, Professor Pratt was my boss, and he was very excited.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm looking. I just spoke to my supervisor yesterday, because of the challenges we go through. Fiji's still in lockdown. Our borders are closed, and
Mm.
Australia is closed. So we're trying to make. I might have to delay my start to October. I might not be able to go in July, but yeah. So it's really nice to, and my supervisor has been very accommodating. She's Dr. Professor Heather Forst. Host, she's been to Fiji a couple of times. She's very much aware of the Pacific and the designers, and she's really looking forward to me starting. And I think I've never looked forward to something in terms of research like this one, because I'm very passionate about it, and I know that it's gonna inspire and improve fashion in the Pacific, and not just me learning, but other designers. So I'm
Yes.
really glad this has happened, and it's all. I mean, I'm just gonna give all credit to God, because I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you with I know all my scholarships, my economics degree, undergraduate, my master's scholarship, and like many of you out there, Fijians, we've been blessed because winning the scholarship means we're helping our fellow Fijians back home. Yeah.
So, man, happy. I'm just so pleased to see, the journey, that you took for your degree and for your master's and now with your PhD. Congratulations,
Thank you.
from all of us. It's very exciting to go into the field of research. I really like the point you mentioned about academic studies. You mentioned the two qualities of discipline and maturity. And that's absolutely right. And I think for many of the parents who are listening in tonight, or even those who are contemplating going into university studies, those are the two very important qualities so that you can be able to do the very best that you can do and contributing back to your community. That's really wonderful. And thanks to Ron Varve for putting it up on his page. Ron is always someone who shares information about academic studies. And I love what you said when you saw the advertisement and you saw the image of the one of the dresses that you actually designed. So I was going to ask you, how did you go into the field of design in the first place? Like what was the turning point for you that this is an area that you're going to kind of like hone in your skills?
Okay. Um, it's not something that I stumbled into, or something that I planned. Like when I was like I said, when I was in primary and secondary, I was very arty. I knew that I had this artistic flair. I know I'm not like how people say that. Oh, when I was a young kid, I wanted to become a designer. No, that never even came close to stumbling on. And that's why I said God played a very important role in pivoting my, I like to say my career or how I stumbled it. So when I was at secondary school, I did architecture, which is TD. I wanted to become an architect. I later on in life, when I researched designers like Karl Lagerfeld, um, all these top house designers, a lot of them, and it really I really it really like moved me because, and I'll tell you the relationship between architecture and design. A lot of them studied and wanted to become architects, and
Ah,
so the similar thing with me, and when you look at it, it's very similar in every way. It's about creativeness. It's about construction of houses on buildings, and in design we talk about construction of the garment, and it's all about precision, where the importance of accuracy, um, thinking out of the box. So all of those things were very similar. So I did my second year at university. Like I said, I was on scholarship. Um, so just we were given allowances. So when I was in my second year, I was making, and a lot of people who know me from way back and my humble beginnings, I come from an average family, working class family. My parents, we started, I lived in Kinoya and then we moved to Lami. And I
mm,
grew up with all the other kids where we celebrated Diwali, we celebrated Christmas, Easter. We knew what it was like, um, growing up together. And, I never forgot that. And all of them are all in different parts of the world. Um, so I just needed extra money for, printing. In those days, we didn't have Facebook and things. We got the bus, and I still love it. I think it was just, it's not about the hardship, but when you go through, having classes late at uni, like you finish a tutorial at from 6 to 8, and then you catch the bus and go home. You're so tired, and you have to do an assignment. You
yeah.
appreciate all those times when we look back. Some of my friends, we chat and we say, you know, dedicating all that time, like I said, you're matured, and at the end of the third year, you want, when you receive your degree or the piece of paper, that you have dedicated and you put your time in for that.
Mm,
Um, So in my second year, I did beach bags, bum bags. They call beach bags, and I sewed them. So I would study during the day, do assignments at night, come home, pull up my machine. I was self-taught. Remember, I didn't go to design school because we didn't have design school in Fiji. We had, um, textiles, yeah, textile, and that's totally different from design. It has to do with design, but so I was self-taught. So I was making these beach bags, bum bags, and then slowly, what I did is I took my little sisters were growing up, and my mom I used to take to tack. I mean, for those of you who don't know what tacking is, or pick and pick, you unpick a dress, a very simple shift dress, laid out, and then I would cut out the pattern, learn from scratch, and then that was garment construction, and then it carried on from there, and that I was self-taught. And when I finished my degree in 1998, I graduated. Um, I won a scholarship also, Ratu Tuisalia. Fiji government was given a scholarship to the Australian AusAid, and only one place for um, a fashion design scholarship to RMIT. I wanted to share this because I know some people know this story, but there's something I want to talk about here. So I won a scholarship. I was ready to go to Australia to RMIT in Melbourne. Unfortunately, the day that I received the scholarship was the day the coup, the military takeover happened in 2000,
2000.
and I didn't cry or say, "Oh my God, look what's happened." And what happened is that AusAid withdrew all their new scholarships, like my one, and all the continuing AusAid students continued, but they withdrew all the scholarships across the board because what was happening. So what I wanted to express here for those who are listening and for especially young ones, although there was that negative, something negative happened in your life or something that you didn't get, basically means that you don't stop there. So what I did is that, okay, I didn't get the scholarship. I just persevered. I learned. I went and got books from the library. I read. The internet was there. I learned. I was self-taught. So I taught myself. Because if you love something so much and you're passionate and you want to learn, you can teach yourself. Like in today, anybody can go on YouTube and Google and learn to make anything.
Yeah.
You can almost learn anything and anything that you love. So that's what I did. So my point, the beauty about it was that, I didn't get this scholarship, and I'm not going to sit back and cry. I just persevered. So I entered all these shows that came up. The Weller Show. If you watch John Apted and Ellen's show on Fashion Week last night, we had the Weller Show. We had the Red Cross shows. These were charity shows where you had to apply for them, put a dress in or dresses in,
Yeah.
and then everything just kicked off from there. Winning an award, and I always said, I didn't have to win. For me, what was very important was not about the winning. And I always tell young designers here, it's not about winning. It's just seeing your product, your dress on the catwalk. Seeing your work exhibited should give you is winning itself. The extra plus is just winning, but it's not. It's not all about winning. Not everybody wins, and then you learn to grow from there. And so that's what I did. And my cousin Latila, who was on last night, was I think she was the chairperson or the president of the Fiji Arts Council, and she had she linked us as artists opportunities, and there was an opportunity in Bahamas in 2008, and I took up that opportunity. So I applied for it. It's like applying for a job, and you have to put in your credentials. You have to win national awards, and I was very fortunate to be invited to. It's called Islands of the World Fashion Week. It was the first ever in the Bahamas, and I went there and I won two. Was runner up for two categories, which was the cultural award and eco award, which is a sustainable, a dress that has a theme for sustainability. So I went with my mom. We paid our own fees, we paid our own airfares, and you can imagine it cost a lot of money. My mom and dad has been the greatest supporters, and my family, my friends. A lot of my friends from high school. There's so many too, and one of the things that, and I know you would know, and many of Fijians will know, is that success is also supported. If you have the biggest support from your family and your friends, you'll never, that's one important factor, because they believe in you. I've had people, like, for example, someone who's been with me all the way, like she's more his family. Bernadette runs Nanilau.
Mm.
She's been a very close friend, and many of them know that she models a lot of my dresses. I make a lot of dresses. We actually have fun doing them together because we look at themes, and
Mm.
she's modeled, and I've won a lot of awards.
Mm.
And we work together a lot. So the support. What I'm trying to say is the support is very, very important when you are establishing designer or whatever career you get into. If you're in
Mm.
a family, you have to make sure your wife or your husband supports you and your children, because that's very important for many of us that live in Fiji. Yeah.
So, dear Nasaranga, just so lovely, that you mentioned, the support from mom and dad. So if mom is listening tonight, just want to acknowledge her, and I'm sure the other parents who are listening in tonight as well, acknowledging all the amazing support. Definitely, if we have parents who allow their children, to follow their heart in whatever pathway or career that they wanted to do, that is amazing.
Hmm.
It kind of it's a kind of a sense of empowerment, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
They allow you to think freely, because when you think freely, you allow yourself to be creative, right? And to have that courage to face whatever you're going to face. Like even for that scholarship that was taken out because of the coup, right? It didn't
Yeah.
stop you from there. You kept going. You didn't, I think I like what you said. You didn't go to a corner and cry, but you kind
Hmm.
of like, right, the scholarship is gone. What will HUPPY do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you
Yeah.
go out there and try and teach yourself something.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Wow. And I think also at the same time, I'd like to acknowledge teachers. Thanks to Mrs. Mali Mali. He's your class 5 teacher. I hope if
Yeah.
anyone is listening in tonight who knows Mrs. Mali Mali, just so we can collectively thank her for recognizing the skill you have, the
Hmm.
doodling and
Yeah.
the drawing. I've seen some of my classmates who do that in the middle of the class.
Yeah.
But it all depends on what the teacher do. What do you think, Happy? Do they get what do you call? Do they get meradun ruby to saying after school detention? It's either you
Yeah.
go for detention or they call you and said, Happy, can you take the lead in this project and help draw a turtle on this wall?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that's what she did. That's what she did. Because if you read my reports when I was a young kid, I had a very short concentration span. I think I still do. But so to get me to keep still and don't bother other students, she would do that to me. Um, Something else I would like to take note of, and I think parents will learn, is that during that time in the 1980s, 1970s, when I was growing up, and I spoke about this to my mom and dad. My dad was uh, let's just say, he when I first went into designing, he was like, okay, why are you doing this? And he's a very traditionalist. My mother, although who she grew up in Rotuma, my dad grew up in Fiji. My mother was more of a very modern thinking. But my dad learned to appreciate what I did. He never knew anything about design, but he was very proud, and he would come to the shows, after the show would finish, and then he would go. But he always support me that way. Then he learned, and I usually talk about this to my friends, and I hopefully, and I pray that the mindset changes in Fiji,
Yeah.
was that we were too fixated in Fiji. Even into today as I speak, and I hope that that changes. When I went for teacher training,
Mm.
I stood up and I said that, when we're growing up, it's like, you're gonna be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. Everybody was so into academia and all that, and nobody talked about art and becoming. If you say you're becoming an artist, they was like, shut up and sit down. Like that's not a job. I mean, you know, Fijians are the most creative beings I know. Ellen says that, and I can vouch for that. We have everything around us that we do. We plat, we paint, and we're very expressive people. And also with humans, like you said. So the education system needs to have in schools
Mm.
where they can nurture students if they're
Mm.
not academically, inclined to. They're not get them to do something that they're passionate about. And that's what I was always good at. I'll tell you, I was only good at technical drawing, woodwork and metalwork. I knew all what we did, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because I loved working with my hands.
Yes.
I mean, obviously later you knew that I went into academia, but if I had, I was talking to a friend of mine. She's an amazing artist. If
Mm.
we had proper teachers who are art teachers, and they gave us, a different option,
Yeah.
I'm sure we would have, went into art school. And I mean, I'm not regretting anything. I mean, it just turned out the way God had,
Um,
traced out our destiny. But I'm just saying that in Fiji, the education system needs to accommodate
yeah.
music, art, and you see the raw talent we have. I mean, I've talked to different artists, musicians who come home, and artists, and it's just, you know, we're talking about artists who didn't go to art school, and I'm talking in general also in the Pacific. Like, when I go to Papua New Guinea and we go to the markets,
Yeah.
oh goodness, these people are so talented. It's just amazing. Yeah,
Mm.
it's really amazing.
Ah, man, look at that. So that's a lesson for many of us parents, and maybe those of us or those of our friends who are working at the Ministry of Education, to maybe help shift, right, that way of
Yeah,
thinking, shifting it from within the teacher's sphere, within the classroom, and
yeah,
also the parents at home when they talk to their children. I'm sure the parents are the best teachers for the children. They'll
yeah,
know from home who likes to be, banging the pots at home, them love for music. Maybe they
yeah,
want to be into that field, What about those who just sit there for hours just drawing and drawing? Maybe that's those turning points where they can be able to be empowered to say, hey, Lubengu, ikon do
yeah,
talita ka ng drawing ni, trere vinaka na naman drawing, right?
yeah,
Oh, ikaw ang giring-giri, chiko sa rong-rong na ka na mong giring-giri. See, those kind of word of empowerment, it doesn't have to be, from outside the home, but if it's
yeah,
from the home, man nga happy. Sa
yeah,
totoo ka sa nga, eh? Hmm.
exactly. Yeah, it has everything starts from home. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's very essential, and the support has to come from home. Um,
Yes.
so so I'm with this project with Samson Lee, a few
Oh, yeah.
designers, where we are supposed to have a fashion show on the 1st of May, and
Okay.
because of what's happening now, that's been postponed to a later date. And wearing Fiji is about mentorship. We're mentoring young designers. At the moment, I'm mentoring two designers,
Hmm.
um, and I'm also mentoring a designer in Papua New Guinea, a young, very talented artist. He's an artist and upcoming designer.
Mhm.
He's going to do really well. And also, I have a young designer that's with me. I'm training him and teaching him. He's from Nandronga. Um, he's very
So,
talented. Um, so um, a lot of these,
happy with these two here from PNG and Nandronga, did they request or did they apply to you, or how did you find them?
uh, it was not a really application process. So what happened is, the young designer that's with me, I was already mentoring him before the actual
I
this
see.
mentorship program started. So I actually hired him to work with me for 3 days. So he travels from Nandronga. He did a certificate in fashion with APTC, and so he was
Oh,
looking for a job. So I hired him for 3 days, and when I hired him, I teach him things, and he does stuff for me. So we work together. He's a Fijian boy. He comes from a very big family in Nandunga and village. He's very talented. So he's got a very good mind. So just trying to help him out. Because he doesn't come from a very affluent background.
mm,
So where we can help, it's important. So and the guy from PNG, when I went to do a workshop, he asked me if I could
wow,
mentor him. So I go online all the time, and we talk about what he can use, because he's an artist by profession, and he
wow,
wanted to go into design. So I help him out, advising him on the types of fabrics he could use,
yes,
with his sketches and art and stuff. So as the best I can help him, especially with this time,
yes.
and it's fulfilling, trying to help out these young individuals.
Wow,
Um, and
wow.
so just one thing I wanted to highlight was, last year
Mm,
we had one student. He was a boy, and
mm,
even my own mentee, the guy that I'm mentoring, especially like I'm just saying, for Fijians, uh, so see, he went back home and he got a lot of, how should I say, some negative, just because he's a guy
Mm,
and he's going
like a
into
stigma.
fashion
There's a
and a
stigma. Eh?
stigma. And I think Fijian, we need to come away from that and the thought of oh, that's sewing, that's only for girls.
Yeah.
It's kind of like demotivating for him.
Mm,
He was kind of upset. So I just want to point out that if you want to help someone,
yeah.
and it can go into depression and all the when you're a young person and you want to set your goals and your own relatives and your own family do that. Not his immediate family. He's very much supported by his mom and dad,
Mm,
but it's his extended family who are doing that. It's kind of disheartening for me. I felt this, so I said to him,
yeah.
look, if your heart is within it, I will support you, and just focus on it. Just pray about it, and you will be fine. I told him, but only God will help you. I said, we can't change the mindset of people, but
Mm,
like you said, which I really liked what you pointed out was, parents play that very important role to
yeah.
nurture, to encourage, to empower. You're not going to do that to your child, and how can you expect your child to be successful,
Mm, yeah.
successful in whatever they do. All that nurturing has to come from you. And that mindset needs to be like put aside. You notice that when with COVID-19, I hope a lot of people realize that people losing their jobs, the next best thing they move into is, and I always encourage my students, even I'm teaching food and beverage and hospitality, I say to them, look, you're young now. Learn a dance, learn to weave, learn to play music, learn to draw, plant food, um, learn a skill. Because you're Pacific Islanders, you're good at doing plenty multi-skilling. We are born like that. We've got to encourage our young. You don't have to play one instrument. If you know how to play 10 instruments, all the better. And it's just you learn, like I said, you learn every day. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes you a holistic person, and you meet new friends. Like for me personally, I can say that because of my experience, it develops you as a person. A lot of people say, my mom says, when I joined hospitality, she said, did you know that tourism is the lowest paid? I said, Mom, I know. I got $2.40 working as a night auditor at the old travel lodge. I worked at the travel lodge 11 years ago. I said, I knew it was $2.40. I didn't save anything, but
Yeah.
I can, I can't say that all those years didn't teach me anything. It developed me as a person. It built
Yes.
my confidence. I became more creative. I became more tolerable, more patient, and it builds you as a person. So if you can learn to
Mm,
dance, you can learn to play an instrument, you can learn art, you can do anything outside your
mm,
your your career. It just adds on to it because people who lost their jobs are now going back to that. They're going like
yeah.
in Fiji Airways or in the hotels. They're going back to what they learned or their grandparents taught them, and they're benefiting from it. Most of
Mm,
them don't want to go back to where they were because they are making good earned money. It's a negative impact that happened, but I look
mm.
at the positives that come out of it, and people have benefited. So that's amazing. Yeah,
Ah, that is so true. I'm glad you mentioned about those things. So learn how to dance, learn how to weave, plant, sing a song, play an instrument. Look at that. And I think with COVID-19, a lot of people who were, you were saying they had good jobs, or even our dear friends who have lost their jobs as flight attendants, it is
mm,
so heartening, to
yeah,
see many of them exploring the creative side. For example,
exactly.
there's a lady in Nandronga, speaking of Nandronga, because you've got a mentee from Nandronga, and I have a soft spot too for Nandronga. There's Millie Tuyanga, she's based in Singatoka, and now she's got a catering business, and
Wow,
she's doing some, interior decorating to help with
wow,
event management, and the list goes on. I'm hoping
yeah,
to invite her,
yeah,
to come on my program too, because she is such an inspirational woman who moved away, from something that was to do with travel and
yeah,
hospitality and all of that, and now going on to this artistic side,
yeah.
organizing. She's such an amazing organizer. So
Oh,
there you go.
wow, that's
That's another
amazing.
thing you mentioned. So
Yeah,
wonderful for you, happy to be encouraging your students to think outside the box.
yeah. I mean, that's amazing. If you get on, I would really love to hear from her because that would be inspiring. Because for many of them, they wouldn't have known. I mean, if that didn't happen. I mean,
Uh,
and we hear a lot of success stories in Fiji where, and it's so wonderful to hear. One of the beauty of all this is that for many of them just packed up, took their families, and moved back to the villages. We know
yes.
that it's quite difficult because for many of them, their children weren't brought up in the villages. There's always challenges, but the beauty about it is that you have less expenses. You eat
Mm.
organic food. There's no internet, so what?
Mm.
Your children play with other kids. They learn the tradition and culture in the village. They
Yeah.
reconnect with their cousins, and you hear
Mm.
beautiful stories that reporters put out and documentaries. It's just wonderful to hear that because these parents would really thank God for everything that's happened. Their children are benefiting. They go to the school just down the
Yeah.
road, and that's truly amazing. People have moved back to the islands.
Mm.
It's really COVID is obviously it's a negative, but these are the
Mm.
positive, wonderful stories that we hear. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
In Nasaranga. And I have to say too that one of the offshoots of COVID-19 is this very program that we are doing right now, that we're
Yes.
talking
Yes.
in right now. I was
Yeah.
thinking that if the COVID-19 didn't happen, I wouldn't have been encouraged to do a digital platform like this because I remember a year ago I was thinking of children, who were at home on lockdown, and
Yeah.
they would be bored and all of that. And then I was encouraged by my family to say, to encourage me and said, "Oh, mom, you can sing, you can teach the kids the names of the alphabet, the
Yeah.
animals, the fish, and all of that." So
Yeah.
there we started, and it's moved from that to now. So it's really nice to see the
Yes.
positive side. Eh? Hmm.
Yes, yes. I saw that and I think that's wonderful. Congratulations. I thought it was a brilliant idea because I think, one of the things that it would benefit, yes, of course, our local students here, but also Fijians who are living as far as London, who have
Eh,
their children and they're born there and they don't speak Fijian or they speak a little bit Fijian. I mean, the parents are always busy and
eh,
you having that program will encourage them to come on and learn very basic vernacular, and that's very important, and the same can go for Tumen, like and that's wonderful. Thank you for bringing this on and accommodating that. That's just wonderful. Yeah.
So vinaka vakalevu happy. It's just so empowering on so many levels. Yeah? Even for me, when I'm preparing for my online classes, I'm learning so much as well. And
Yeah.
also, I got to see the talents that my children have. And
Yeah.
so I got to value them because my son is really good with technology, and my daughter is very artistic. So the same thing, I kind of like, oh, maybe I should use them behind the scene, to help support me, which is
Yes.
really wonderful. And then Mr. Bunidilo comes on board to, become a cultural advisor. So everything that you see online on my platform is all to do with the whole family
Family.
chipping.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. That's very beautiful. I,
Nah,
I just watched that a talkback show with Ellen Whippy and John Apted, and the same thing with him. He was talking about his career, and he talked about again we're going back to what I just said, and like with your family supporting you, and he was saying that
so,
everybody in their family, somebody was doing the logistics, somebody was doing the finance, he was doing the creative side, and just like what you're doing. So everything works when you have the family support, when they all part and parcel of it. It's you work together with a common goal, and that's the beauty about it. Yeah, I totally agree. Congratulations.
so happy. And speaking of family, I was just thinking back of your travel to the Bahamas,
Mm.
when you and your mom went in 2008, for that show, and, you had to pay your own way. Can you just tell us a little bit as to how you got to get your mom to help you go over to be part of this show, but paying it all the way there?
Yeah. So one thing I talk to my mentees is you know, anything that you do, you need to invest in it.
Yes.
And we looked at it as an investment. I know my mom because I was, I was still at university. I was studying, and
Mhm.
so I was just relying on my parents. So my mom funded that whole trip. because she looked at it as an investment, not as a liability, but an investment, because that opened doors. It opened my eyes to many opportunities. I met a lot of people. The models were from New York. I learned so much, a great deal. I learned from other designers. We made very close friends who we keep in touch today. I'm still getting invited to that show because it just puts things into more perspective when you're on an international platform. You learn, you come back, you go back to the drawing board, you review your designs. You so yeah, we spent a week and a half, I think. So yeah, like I said, my mom looked at it as a, it was not when I got the offer letter, because you had to be given an offer letter. It's like applying to a university, so we have to put an application in.
Yeah.
And if you get an offer letter, like even designers from Bahamas weren't even given an offer letter, because later we talked to a few of them there, they weren't given that opportunity. So I was very, very fortunate, and I always said to my mom, God is good, and I must make use of this opportunity. So she looked at it as an investment for me, not as a liability, because I've learned so much when I come back and then put that into practice. And I've never looked back. And it cost us a lot of money because we had to take our own. We had excess luggage. Fiji Airways was very kind. I mean, our trip was amazing because we had very good people in Fiji Airways. That time it was Air Pacific, and in LA, which when we checked in, so they waived my luggage through Delta Airways. It was amazing. God works with you when you put your heart and soul into it. Yeah.
Amen.
So we learned a lot. My mom even learned a lot. She took leave from work. My employer was very supportive. Even till now, my employers, they know that because I teach tourism and hospitality, but when they know I have an overseas show, they support me, and that's important because it's quite hard to find employers who support you and they know that you have a business and you are into another industry. So that's very important. And so we reminisce and we keep in touch with our friends from the Bahamas. And so from there on, we did shows. I take my mom everywhere. My sister tags along too. So we went to London in 2012. We did the first ever London Pacific Fashion Show. We've been to Sydney a couple of times. Unfortunately, I haven't been to Hawaii, so I must come and pay you a visit when I come to Hawaii. I went with my sister to Hartford, Connecticut, in New York. These are all the shows that we went to. And then I won a very small scholarship thing to Shanghai 2 years ago to study textile design in Donghua University, where one of our designers has also graduated. It's the best design school in China, so I spent some time there. And yeah, we've traveled quite a bit. I never traveled as much because, like I said, we weren't a very affluent family. We were average working class family. My parents were, they worked very hard, and because of that, that's where I am now, obviously. But we learned, yeah. So just being humble and know where you started. Just as long as you know where you started and where you're from, you'll never go wrong. Just have humility, and it'll take you to places. That's the important part of it. Never forget who you are. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right. I really like what you said, when your employer, in this case, USP, they acknowledge you, they value you, and they allow you to, have the time for teaching, but they also allow you to have the time to be able to continue your creative side and your business side. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's something that maybe employers who are listening in tonight, to perhaps learn from this experience, because if they value their staff members or their employees, then you are able to do much more, and you become an ambassador for your business, plus also the place where that you work.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
See, that allows you that room, right, to become more creative, because with creative people, if you get boxed in, that's not something good you need to do to an artist, right? You need to allow them room to be free and to express themselves.
Exactly. Otherwise, they go cranky.
And you don't want a very cranky artist. Oh, yes. Wow, that is amazing. So my next question I was going to ask you, with your designs, if you can explain the inspiration, maybe are there any inspiration you would connect to Rotuma from your heritage and your upbringing, or maybe Lami or Kinoya or
Yeah.
environments that you are surrounded with?
Um, so basically, because when you do a line, a cloth line,
Yes.
you there's a thing called the mood board or a storyboard.
Uh-huh.
So when you do a collection, we call it a line or collection.
Yes.
You have to have an inspiration. Well, I'll just to make it more easier for listeners. It
Yes.
has to tell a story like any artist who's painting a picture or any writer. It has to tell a story. The same thing applies to a designer when you're doing a dress or you like just for you, Teresi, if I make a dress for you, so I've done dresses. So my niche market is bridal market. I do a lot of bridal wear. I
Mhm.
do ready to wear and casual resort. So what I do is I tell like if I'm doing it for you, I'll say, Teresi, what I'd like to, some girls come and say, I don't know anything about dresses and design. I think, can you do something for me? You're the designer. You design. So one
Mm.
of the first things I ask them is, I, or they say, I want to dress just like this, like Princess Diana. So I said, that can be the frame of the dress, but I'd like to design a dress that resembles you, who you are. So we'll ask you, okay, Tarisi, where are you from? And
Mhm.
then you'll say, I'm from here, and these are the some elements of my where my village is from. We use the masikuvui, we use this type of shell. So I'll say, look, I'm going to use some of that in my design. I'm creating a dress like that and sending it to London before October this year, and that's what I've done. The girl is Rutuman, her mother's Rutuman, her father is British, and she wants a design to resemble her identity who she is. She's a very proud Rutuman, and so that's what I've done. I've got so I merge the cultural aspect of the design and into a westernized design and put things. So if a girl is from, so I did a dress where a girl is from, I think Vanuatu, where they use the kuta. They don't use the masi.
Mm.
So it was one of my biggest challenges because obviously many of you know the kuta. It's very strong. It's a grass. It's very strong. It's not like masi where masi is tough too.
Mhm.
So we did her dress. It took us a couple of weeks. It's entirely made of kuta, and it turned out beautiful. So we cut out mother pearl shells, we accessorized it, and so I made her traditional dress, which was not traditional, but from traditional. The kuta was a contemporary, and then I made her white wedding dress for reception. She
Mm.
was a size 16, 18 girl, but she
Mhm.
looked absolutely beautiful in it. So that's
Oh.
what I do. Sometimes the inspiration comes from who you are. I tell the girl, don't have a dress, you want to look like that person, but your dress should resemble who you
Mm.
are or what you want to portray. That's basically that's what I'm designing for bridal wear. But when I do a collection, like I said, when we do a collection, you have to come with an underlying theme. Is it the year of the ocean, the year of sustainability and conservation of the forest and the flora and fauna in Fiji? So yes, I'm very much inspired by traditional motifs.
Mm.
Some people are not inclined to that. That I understand that, but you don't have to have a just full, you know, that's
Mm.
decorated with Fijian masi. You can have, just maybe a collar that has a print that signifies it, where it's a westernized design. Having said that, so I've been inspired by so many things. So in 2017, when I won, I think 2015 or no,
Mm.
2015, when I won Fiji Fashion Week, no, like I said, it's not about winning. I took a trip. I took about 40 students to Japan on a Genesis program. It's an exchange, cultural exchange program. I've traveled quite a bit, and Japan is one of those countries that just blew me away. It's just
Mm.
the culture, the people, just
Yes.
amazing people. They are so sincere. One
Mm.
of those Asian countries that I can go back and forth. So I love the food, I love the people and the way they live and their sincerity. So I was very much inspired by the Asakura. That's um, that beautiful blossom, cherry blossom. I came back to Fiji. I was inspired by the cherry blossom, and I did a collection where the silhouettes were 1950s, and my color palettes were like cherry blossoms because they come in different colors, but they were called Blush and Bloom. So it was a bridal collection. It was called Blush and Bloom because it had a very soft pastel pink, and it was very beautiful. It was one collection that I hold close to my heart, and I called the collection the second time around. And people say, why did you call it second time around? So second time around is that if you're getting married again, it doesn't mean that you're getting married again. It basically means that you can renew your vows. That's basically what it was.
So,
So I won that year. I won the 3 awards, the top awards this year. So it was not about winning. It was very not emotional, but I felt good about winning that award because it was something that I put a lot of time, a lot of thought into the process, and each garment I made was with all the love. That's what I said to, when you do bridal wear, you charge a certain amount, but you have to put the love into your work, a lot of passion, and it'll show in the work. Yeah. And so a couple of dresses, bridal wear I made, I've become very attached to. One of them is to a very beautiful girl, um, Faye Tamani. Her mother's a Tonganivalu. A lot of people, she got married, and there was the one regret because she got married in Ireland. I was invited, and in Ireland, but in an island off Ireland. So because the boy was from Ireland. So her dress took us like about 2.5 months because we had cut out shells. She wanted a 1950s silhouette. She didn't want a top dress. She wanted her dress to be a reflection of a Pacific Island girl because she wanted to show the people there that she was from the islands, the Pacific Islands, not just Fiji. And it fit her like glove. So that's one of the most challenging things about being a designer because I did only one fitting for her here, and her next fitting, which was so important, was done in Ireland, and it fit her like a glove, and she looked amazing. So it's just one of those dresses you hold close to your heart. I mean, obviously, all the dresses you do, you put your pride and your time into it, and you put a lot of love into it because you know that this is a special garment for somebody who will wear it only for a few hours. But it has a lot of meaning and a lot of time and passion put into it. So that's basically what, yeah, all this passion. Yeah.
I'm
It's
just so
it's the satisfaction. It's not so much the about the money, but it's the satisfaction that you get, yeah, as a designer.
And then when you see them smile, when you see your clients
Yeah.
smile and so happy, particularly on those kind of milestone events, yeah, like weddings.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that is beautiful. Yes, Vinaka Wale for sharing those personal stories and for Faith Tamani and the family in Ireland.
Yes.
They based there.
They're
Um,
based in Australia, but they got married in Ireland. So a lot of people went from Fiji to, yeah, so to celebrate her. It was beautiful.
Yes, wow, that's wonderful. I think she might be related to one of my teachers in Nandita Kumbao, Marita Tamani.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it must be connected. Yes, vinaka. And I think I like the fact when you mentioned that it goes back to a storyline, or like it seems like this week's theme, starting off with Wilson Hernico, the power of storytelling. For him, it went back to the storytelling from his father, and then
Yeah.
now Letila yesterday, and now with you. So it's really awesome. This is something that maybe some of us, including myself, that we take for granted. I come from my mom was a really, really good storyteller, and it allows my mind to wander and to
Yeah.
be creative and to be, to travel to another part of the world just using the power of the mind. So it's really nice that you can use that, but you're putting it on something tangible, like
Yes.
clothing that
Yes. Yes.
you design.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, Vinaka. And my next question I was going to ask you, Happy, was to look at the business side, because you mentioned your degree was in economics. How did you merge these two together for your design work and your business together?
Um. Uh. So it's funny because I listened to like I said, Ellen and John Apted's talkback show, like similar to this one yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, And you know how you learn, like I always say, you learn from your mistakes and you grow. You
Yes.
learn from your, some people unfortunately don't learn from their mistakes. um the one thing that it's taught me is to, because you know, like I said, I don't come from a very affluent family. With design business, and one thing that John Apted had actually talked about, and it's very true, is that I'm not talking about just designers, I'm talking about artists, I'm talking about any business person. A lot of them, sell a painting or a commission with something, and they party and they blow their money. They don't learn to save. One thing that we need to teach our children, and I learned, like I said, I told you, I learned from my mistake. You learn to save. That's number one, because if you want to diversify, or you want to expand your business, or you want to employ people, financial literacy is very important. You got to teach yourself to learn. If you're really bad with the money, get somebody. You do the creative part, you get somebody else to do the financial management of your company. Your cash flow, you must ensure that you have cash flow. You can't um, run your business without any cash flow, because how are you going to pay your employees?
Yeah.
How are you going to buy more paint? How are you going to buy more fabrics? And I've learned through the years. A lot of people come home and then they see I have a room that's um, it looks like if you're a chef, it would be a pantry, but I
Wow.
have a separate room that has all fabrics that I've bought from overseas. I've ordered, I buy in bulk, um, and because I saved because I knew that, like I'm going back to what I talked about my mom.
Mm.
If you need your business to grow and you want to succeed in whatever you do, you gotta invest. You gotta invest, and you will reap the benefits of
Wow.
that investment. Because you're not gonna you're not going to grow as a business
Yeah.
if you're going to continue. I mean, a lot of people, I'm probably one of the old designers who've been designing for quite a while, and ask me, oh, why haven't you opened a shop?
Yeah.
And I said, I work a 9 to 5 job when I was lecturing at USB.
Mm.
At the moment, I'm very comfortable with my online orders. I do
Mm.
it online because this is the new millennium.
Yes.
And having a shop open in Suva, that's like your operational cost itself, like your rent is $4,000 a month. Like seriously, do the
Mm.
math and you divide that by 4 in a week. How much would you have to make 1,000 to cover your just the rental cost. Then you have to pay all the other expenses like your workers, all the extra expenses. So there's no need for me to open a shop. You have an online shop. There's other ways where you can promote. I mean, I've survived this long, and I tell people, like, so when you talk to young designers, they say, "Oh, my dream one day is to have a shop," and I was like, "Okay, really think about that. Think about that really, really nicely." I'm not saying that people who have opened their shop are stupid. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there
Yeah.
are other options where you could choose. Just like education, just like any other field, there are other options. You can go virtual. You can resort to you know, um, uh, takeaways or drive-through or things. There are other options you could use. You can run your business from the comfort of your home, and I feel very comfortable with it because I
Mm.
minimize my expense. I
Mm.
still have my orders. People still ordering, and
Mm.
and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. At the end of the day, you got to. I say to young designers, when you put a collection out, you have to make sure, yeah, it's beautiful, it looks lovely, everybody likes it. But the main thing is that collection going to be viable? Will it bring you your orders? Will it bring capital to your business? That's the main thing. And if that happens, then you are set. You don't have to, you can't please everybody because you have to have a market segment. Some people may like your design, some may not like it. I mean, that's the way it is. That's the world where customers are. Some people like the sleeve, some people don't like that. That's too revealing. But you can also meet your customers halfway and design around what they're like. Although you put a collection, you say, look, my collection has that, but I can put a sleeve on it, or I can make it to fit you, and make you look beautiful, etc. So at the end of the day, it's all about that. So financial literacy, planning, saving is also very important. Budgeting for your business, because you cannot. I mean, I've come out this far, and I come from, like I said, I didn't inherit money anywhere, but I can say I'm comfortable. Like I'm doing well. I'm comfortable. So, and I'm happy. I'm content. Yeah. I
Yes.
don't have to be a millionaire. That at the end of the day, it's not about being a millionaire. Yeah, it's just you're content with your life and you're happy where you are. So that's more important for me.
Dear Nasaranga. Wow, that's a really good word there, being content
Yeah,
and being happy and comfortable in what you're doing. And that is wonderful, beautiful
yeah.
lesson that you taught us today, Happy. And I think coming closer to the end of our Talanoa, man, this is so enjoyable. Happy for being so open, in sharing your story. So many people here
Thank you.
connecting in from England, from America. They all saying Bula to you and just acknowledging the amazing work you have done representing Fiji and particularly your island home of Rotuma. One of the last questions I have here is looking at collaboration. You mentioned Samson Lee, and I know you've collaborated with even with Bernadette Rans Nganilau. What motivates you to allow yourself to actually work with others and build a network of people in terms of your either business or your work of design? Can you just share that with us?
I think it's a two-way process. I think it's very important for you as a designer because there's a lot of benefits. You can help each other. Sometimes you want to contribute to a common purpose, like in case of Samson's initiative, what's a wonderful initiative. It's so the reason why when he invited me, I wanted to get involved because I think it's very important.
Mm.
The main objective of that project, sorry, it is Samson and Nisao Tundraki. She's
Oh.
living in Melbourne. It's their project, their initiative. And why I wanted to be part of it when they invited me was because it would nurture young designers. We would mentor young designers. And I think it's very important because these are our future. They will be taking us to the next level. And I think also another thing that's also very important was um, your knowledge is like for me. I could say I'm also very proud to say that it's a God-given gift because I didn't have the formal education in fashion and design until later. But your knowledge is there for you to share, not for you to keep, because we all know here that we're not going to be here forever. So if you can share your legacy or whatever you leave behind, that will benefit the future generation. It's like how our forefathers have passed down from generation from generation, like you said with your grandmother, the stories. I mean, I love storytelling. That's one of my favorites. When I go to Rutuma and we talk about legends and why the significance of this has happened here, and so many wonderful stories. It's just so inspiring and so beautiful. And so, having said that, it's like you passing down your skills and your talents to
Wow.
to whoever. I mean, I don't have to pass it to a Rutuman, like what I learned. I mean, if I'm always like that. If somebody wants to learn, I said, fine, come home. It's not that everything is about you put a money value on it. I'll teach you. So, I'm teaching my sister's little kids. This boy is Fijian from Nandonga. Anybody who has the passion to love and to learn, I'm more than willing to, to impart my knowledge. I think that which is very important to share that because life is too short, yeah. So we've got to appreciate and we've got to um, share what we learn. So collaborating is very important because you learn to achieve a certain objective. You learn to appreciate each other because as a designer you have different skills. You target different markets. You also compete with each other in terms of competition and customers, but also you have a common goal to um to society. So that would be like a social responsibility to a particular charity event, and we do that a lot of times with Bernadette. We contribute to a certain. She has a Loloma Foundation that she created. She's the founder of that, and so when I have a fundraiser, a portion of that is given to that foundation because that helps unfortunate kids or single mothers. So like I said, not everything is about money. Sometimes you give back because they are less fortunate and people who had a very little opportunity than and I did. So when I did my, I told my mom when I was the last recipient of the Master Scholarship in Australia, I kept telling myself, this is because I've heard stories of a lot of Fijians who had overstayed in Australia, didn't finish their degree, or come back. And I said, these are taxpayers' money. I said to my mom, I have to make sure that I achieve this and go back home and help, the Fijians, like we Fijians and Hutumans,
Yeah.
because I think it's very, very important. And to know that when you are, and I tell my students this in class, I get frustrated. I know they see me sometimes frustrated, and I say to them, I don't care that you're a private student, you're a sponsor, but somebody is paying your fees, and you need to take ownership of that. You need to take ownership and responsibility for you sitting here, because plenty students, 1,000 students sitting outside there want to be at university, and you're taking up that space and you're not doing anything. And that really disappoints me, because if you want to come and learn, you got to come and learn. There's a big world out there. University is just it's just a doorstep where you stand in, and then when you get that certificate, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. But we're just seeing them playing around and not serious. And um and it baffles me, and it really makes me angry, because um, I'm not being racist or anything, but because I have Fijian blood, but when the Fijian students do it, I get really particularly very angry. Not so much the Solomon Islands, Kiribati, and other regions, because sometimes we need to come head on to them and tell them what it is, because I'm sure their parents will be disappointed when they don't submit things on time, or or don't come to lectures and tutorials. So it's really, really important. You gotta, obviously, and because you lecture, because you're not their mom and dad, but sometimes you gotta talk to them that they gotta rethink who they're responsible and take ownership of their priorities whilst at uni. That's for anybody, Yeah. Even if you're running a business, you gotta take ownership. Yeah. So that's important.
Absolutely. And I really like that two lessons, discipline and maturity. Yeah, discipline and maturity, which I think it's a wonderful lesson for all of us, as you said, in whatever field of work or study, whatever project that you're doing, just disciplining ourselves in terms of time management, even with financial literacy, that is so key, particularly in your field of design. You need to kind of buy all those materials and the paint and the people who come and work for you. Definitely, those are really, really key things to think about. Wow, vinaka level happy. Yeah, and I think it comes to the point now where I give it back to you. If there are certain people you would like to thank or acknowledge. You've mentioned quite a lot of names today, and I just want to say vinaka to you for that, reminding all of us that we're not alone on this journey. There are people who who go alongside you, who hold your hand or push you from the back or slap you on the head, to keep you focused. So I would like to give the time back to you now, Happy, to say a few words to acknowledge those who supported you and helped you along the way.
Well, firstly, my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to you, Tarisi, Dr. T. It's lovely to meet you. I've actually met you before, which means when I say that, I said I've already met you on TV, because I told you earlier that I saw your programs and I was very inspired by them with YG. I've worked with, collaborated with YG before. We did a few when I was very young at university. I did cultural. Bernadette and I go way back, because she's usually the the MC for the cultural shows, the ACPE shows, EEC shows we had in the 80s. And I was the curator or the artistic director, where I had fashion shows and cultural presentations where we had people from overseas. And it's a small world, because we worked very closely with YG when he was with SPC. So thank you for you and your family, and for the show, to spread the message of Fiji, and the people, and our proud heritage and culture, and the Tumans. Although, like we said, we're also minority, but we're very proud people, and it's very important to identify, and to acknowledge your root culture and heritage and your roots, in whatever work that you do, because it's important, because it's who you are, and it's who are you made up of. Um, also like to thank my family, my parents, obviously my parents, because like for many of us, our parents, you know, you're the you stem out of your parents. Your existence is because of them and how
Mm,
they reared you and taught you. It's a very, very important. And like you said, they empowered you and motivated you. And my family and friends. A lot of my friends are basically my family because they've been with me through all these years, supporting. Supporting is very important and believing in you. And
mm,
you got to also believe in yourself because in a lot of countries, even like Fiji, depression is real, and
mm,
people can feel very demotivated or demoralized when, especially on Facebook, when people are bullied. So it's very important to believe in yourself and to have the strength and in doing so, there's so many people to acknowledge. But my last one is you can never go wrong with God's blessing. So you always have to,
uh,
um, you know, with every journey that you take, every part of your journey, you got to acknowledge God's existence because He's the reason why you're on this journey. And I'm a classic, I'll never deny that. I'm a classic example of that because throughout my life, He was there for me. Um, even this God-given talent, and as long as you share this, what you have, you learn to share it, and like I said, you'll never go wrong because He will bless you abundantly, and that's very truthful for me, especially for this past month with my scholarship, and it's a blessing for me. So, yeah, that would be the ultimately the biggest thank you is to the man up there, to our Heavenly Father. So I just like to acknowledge him and as long as a lot of youngsters who are listening, if you if you believe in God and you acknowledge Him and you ask Him, and don't forget to thank Him too. Sometimes I do that, I forget, but I always remember to thank God for all His blessing. He will be with you all the way because there's nothing harder. There's nothing hard in everything that you pursue. But people will say, "Oh, this is really hard. Don't do this." But if you put your heart and mind and you put God first, you will achieve that. That's very important. Thank you
uh,
very much for having me. All the best to your family. God bless your family. I'd like to acknowledge and think of all those, especially in Fiji, especially those in Lotok in the lockdown,
mm,
and people are in the hospital in Lotoka. They're going through a very trying time now because of the contagious COVID-19. People around Fiji, please stay safe. It's a very trying time, but I know we can come through this.
yeah,
Especially for those families who are going through a very hard time with who have lost their jobs and in putting food on the table. You're seeing very sad stories, and we pray for you, and we continue to get through this challenge with COVID-19, and yeah, and for to all the Rutumans out there. Um, uh, Happy Rutuma Day, wherever you are, and God bless your children. Thank you very much.
yes,
Rexia. Nakawalin.
Vinaka Sarah, happy. Thank you so much for your time spending it with us on this beautiful evening. And we hope that your future endeavors and particularly all the very best on your PhD program and study in Australia. We will be watching you, and we know you're going to do well, and you're going to, be very proud of your heritage from Rotuma, as well as representing Fiji over there. We are just also proud of you. And definitely you mentioned the important part to acknowledge our Almighty Father, because I think that's a wonderful way you mentioned when you give, yeah, that's a blessing. That's also in the Bible.
Mm,
Blessed are those who give than
yeah,
those who receive. So when you give freely and you give from your heart, blessings will pour
yeah,
left, right, and
definitely.
center. That is
Yeah,
just something
definitely.
that we want to encourage everybody. Happy.
Yes,
Mm.
definitely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, totok is nakabakalebu, and
Thank
thanking
you, Tari.
everybody who listening in from all over the world. There's a few here happy connecting in from the Middle East, from Australia, Ngulinguli Danford, Nakabakalebu Tau, and so many more who are just sending lots of love and hearts to you, happy, and
Thank you,
acknowledge.
Vinaka. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Yeah,
all.
And loloma very, very much to your mom, Happy. Vinaka
I
Vakalevu.
will do that. Thank you, everyone. All there from Fiji, everyone. Minakawalewu. All the
Naka
best. Yeah.
Vakalevu.
Thank you,
Naka,
Tachi.
you're
Naka.
welcome. Naka. Yes, wow, that was a beautiful Talanoa session that we had with Happy for sharing with us his beautiful Talanoa from growing up in Kinoya. So, Vakumbula to everybody from Kinoya. And Lami, where he eventually moved with his family, and not forgetting his connections to Rutuma, which is why we invited him today. And tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, we have another Rutuman speaker, Makareta Mua. Yeah, so Makareta Mua from Fiji National University. She will be here at the same time, 8 p.m. tomorrow. So we look forward that you can also come back and hear more Talanoa about Rotuma. And then next week, on Sunday, we will be going back to Telev. Yeah, so Telev will be back on Sunday. Nakabalev Thierry. Nakapuata. Thank you so much. Makarito Eresito, Nakabakalevu. Cecilia Dunn, Kennedy. Mata Howard, Shelly Taylor, thank you so much for joining in today. Thank you for supporting our platform for Rotuma. Happy Rotuma Language Week. Nakavalevu Ravai Patiaki. Alfred Williame, Nakavalevu. Rokongata Kawata, Ekeremo Kumbuna Vanua, Bula vinaka. Noaya Mauri, vinaka, Bula vinaka. Nakaletila Mitchell, thank you for logging in today. Vinaka for good Talanoa yesterday. Naka Marcel Simpson, thank you so much. Vola Vola Faith Harrieta, thank you so much. Naka Ratuma, Naka Nani Setambu Wai. Thank you so much for logging in. Laloma to everybody in Lambasa, Naka to Simmons family in Lambasa, Chupili, Sarah Pettigrew in Wellington, Bulavinaka. Naka June Kamkamiva, thank you June, Naka. Naka Chorin Batiwale, Naka Leno Servatu. See you tomorrow, 8 p.m. Fiji time. Yes, Vinaka Vakalevu from Dunedin, Tausia Solomone, Taraivosa Senido, and our sisters logging in from Mongolia. Vinaka Vakalevu for supporting our program, and we look forward to see you again tomorrow at 8 o'clock, same time as today. we will be talking to Makareta Moa from the Fiji National University. So that will be another interesting research and Talanoa about her work in Rotuma and connecting it over to the Torres Strait Islands in Australia. Nakavakalev Sara, really appreciate your time. Au sa wakamoreani from Hawaii, ni Moade Manda. Moade tarai vosa, Moade Makarita Eresito, ni Moade Manda. Paexia, Vinaka Helen Katafono, Moade. Naka, you're welcome.